Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello and welcome to this video. We are going back into the world of the Black Tapes, Season 1, Episode 3, our continuing breakdown of the Unsound. So, let's get into this.
Things like this Unsound are just fuel for horror films, I'm afraid.
The irony wasn't lost on me. A Bible professor laughing at the possibility of an unsound, while talking about Satan like he was inarguably real.
Is Dr. Strand going to be here?
Actually, his conference was pushed by a few days. He arrives in Seattle tomorrow morning.
So yeah, this whole Unsound thing is kind of interesting. So...
I love your show.
Thank you. I'd like to ask you about what happened with Jeff, if that's okay.
Yeah, it's cool. Are you recording?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, well, I was sitting right here when I got the call.
That's Keith Dabbich, the guitarist of Hester Rising. We were at his apartment.
Yeah, I imagine doing interviews like this aren't probably not the easiest thing to be doing, or at least for the person being interviewed, the surviving members of the band.
Talking about the circumstances leading up to Jeff Went's suicide.
So, how did you hear about Jeff's death?
His sister. She lives in Portland.
Must have been hard. Your band has been together for a long time.
He was my best friend.
Yeah, that makes it even harder.
It was one of the biggest shocks of my life. And yet... Maybe it wasn't that big of a surprise, you know? Like with all the shit he was into.
The drugs?
Drugs, booze, sure, I guess, but I'm talking about the occult stuff. The black magic.
There we go. That's kind of some of the stories about Led Zeppelin in the 70s have them dabbling in the occult, so that's kind of an interesting crossover or touchstone, I guess.
Weren't you all into that stuff?
Mike and Rory were into it, if Jeff said we were into it.
Mike and Rory, the drummer and the bassist?
Yeah. But you know, those guys were just tourists when it came to that stuff. Jeff was... he was serious.
And you?
Some like really hardcore stuff, sounds like.
I got into that stuff early on. Crowley and the Golden Dawn. I was the one that went to the deep web and found it.
The Unsound.
The Unsound.
Yeah, that's... I imagine he's feeling a lot of guilt.
Hester Rising has been a part of the Seattle rock scene for almost a decade now. As I said earlier in the show, they're a somewhat experimental hard rock band who've courted controversy over the years for their supposedly satanic live shows. But the way Keith tells it, it's all just part of marketing their music. Well, for most of the band, anyway.
Well, you know, see that kind of flows because like Marilyn Manson, his whole thing in the 90s and was that Marilyn Manson knew how to market Marilyn Manson and did a good job of it. And what the person of Marilyn Manson versus the persona of Marilyn Manson, except I don't think that was his real name. I forget what his real name is offhand. If you know what it is, throw it in the comments below.
The occult stuff was a way to get ourselves out there, to stand out. Like, good tunes can only take you so far with so many bands out there. You gotta find a way to break,
To make yourself stand out from the crowd. That's, that was the whole 80s, music thing.
Like Maiden or Ozzy or Guar.
So the black magic was a way to brand yourselves.
We do look good in black.
And yeah, that's unfortunately the politicians of the 80s did not. Well, even the modern politicians, there's some people today in this age, politicians and community leaders and stuff like that, that still haven't gotten moved past the whole satanic panic thing.
And it's cool too. And it was interesting. Like I said, I was really into it in the beginning. And I didn't really believe this stuff about the devil and all that, but I was into the history and the imagery, darkness, chaos, rebellion.
So it was you who introduced the occult to your bandmates?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're treading into survivor's guilt at this point.
They thought it was too derivative at first, but they were thinking more Kiss than Sabbath. But Jeff really took to it. It was like a religious awakening to him. It was hard to treat it like a shtick when your lead singer is so... Well, I thought I was into that stuff, but Jeff took it to a whole nother level.
So it was you who brought the Unsound to the group?
Yeah, the one person gets bit by the snake and goes, and has to have all the poison.
Kind of, but not exactly. So about 9 months ago, this dude comes up to me after a show down in Tacoma. Killer show. Dude buys me a beer and we get to talking. He's one of those guys that reads really deep into every single lyric, like reading stuff I didn't even see in them, and I wrote half the lyrics.
What kind of thing?
Yeah, that's kind of... Yeah, those kind of fans are kind of creepy, to be honest with you.
Like our song Moonrider. He made some connection between the drumming cadence and the lunar calendar. It was weird. I didn't get it, but he's gonna buy me beers. I'm gonna let him keep talking.
And the Unsound?
Dude starts telling me about this sound that Lucifer created, a sound that even God can't hear. Like it's a secret code for Satan's demons to coordinate themselves or something.
As we go back to the interview earlier in the episode, and I believe it's in the last YouTube video I uploaded, so, or on this particular playlist.
And then he tells me about the deep web and all this crazy you can find. Tells me to download a Tor browser and writes down a web address. I listened to the sound when I got home.
And you played it for the others?
Yeah, they got a real kick out of the story. I didn't think anything of it, but like a week later, Jeff tells me I gotta come over. That he wants me to hear something.
So yeah, we're getting to some very, very creepy, interesting areas here.
He played me this.
I don't hear anything.
Exactly. There was nothing there. He told me that I had to try harder to hear it. He said he was experimenting with the Unsound, figuring out the message.
Yeah, that's probably, in the context of this particular universe here, that's probably not a good thing to be doing.
He was really tweaked out and hadn't been sleeping at all. We were excited about our new record, but Jeff had stopped working on everything to focus on this sound.
Or lack thereof sound.
He was a mess.
Sounds like he was trying to bring the occult into the music directly.
He was, and it was cool at first. We thought it added a dimension to the band, but when your best friend hammers a butter knife through his chest with a polo mallet.
Yeah, that just every time they say that the hammering a knife into your chest with a polo mallet, I get a pain right here and just ow.
You kind of gain a new perspective.
I imagine you would.
That's when you call Dr. Strand.
Right around then, yeah. We just wanted to be the next Mudhoney or Soundgarden. Maybe even Nirvana with some luck. Now I don't know if I'm going to make it to Christmas.
There we go. The I wonder if in the makeup of that, if the suggestion, just merely the suggestion, is enough to weigh on the psyche to cause people to put themselves in danger or harm's way or whatever, because they think they're going to die, so they go ahead and put themselves in positions to die. I just, wonder if there's a correlation there.
What do you mean?
I heard the sound 9 months ago. I probably only have 3 months left, at the most.
There's that rumor again. You hear the sound, you die within a year. Keith sounded genuinely frightened about dying. And I have to admit, I did find this whole Unsound thing a little unnerving. It's easy to get superstitious, I think, when presented with such a visceral sonic experience. It's not just your imagination at this point. It's your imagination plus one really dark, creepy, scary sound.
Yeah, like I said, I wonder how much of that is your subconscious and your conscience, with that whole somebody has imprinted that you're going to die in there so heavily that this curse thing or whatever, you do it, you put yourself in harm's way, not realizing that it's you can fight it. I don't know. It's just...
We tried to get the other two members of Hastur Rising, Mike and Rory, to speak on the record, but they politely declined. They've both apparently left the music industry, and neither plan to return to writing or recording music anytime soon.
And yeah, that's interesting.
The Black Tapes podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com.
Yeah, I don't believe this commercial's that long, so we're not gonna, because here lately, well, we're not gonna skip through it, because here lately my Audible app has been just kind of weird, so it's been doing some weird things. So we're just we'll just deal with it.
The Black Tapes. This week we recommend Mikhail Bulgakov's literary masterpiece, The Master and Margarita. Visit www.audibletrial.com/thebblacktapes to download The Master and Margarita, or any one of Audible.com's more than 180,000 titles.
Which I can say, as somebody that uses Audible, it is one, it's either, if you are very, like myself, very bibliophilic, basically a lover of books, and I'm getting to a point where the good old eyeballs here are betraying me. But so Audible books are good, but that if that's not your thing, it's not your thing. So yeah, don't feel pressured one way or another. But the more my eyes decided that they want to not deal with printed things, so
After I left Keith Dabbich's house, I received a call from Strand. He had just landed in Seattle and wanted to see if there were any developments in the story. Also, he spoke with Jeff Went's mother, and I don't know what he said, but...
And we'll go ahead and call this good here. Just FYI, I am looking at, on Saturdays and Sundays, doing a fairly long video, probably anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. I'm going to try to keep them under an hour, but it's going to be just a one long video for the weekends. Doing these here that on the weekdays that are between 15 and 25 minutes long, then do a big long one for the weekend. So we'll see how that goes and whether or not I can get it done. Until next time, everybody, be a good human. Be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?